gotta make sure we behave. Main thing is to behave. Okay. All right. So I know we're running a little late, but it's not such a long daf. All right. Fine. Okay, so we're in the middle of the sugya here of what we said. The machlokes, the Tanna Kamma Reb Shimon, how you calculate losses on in a field, right? So Reb Shimon says, we'll get to Reb Shimon on Amud Beis. Reb Shimon says that you calculate the losses very simply. You just whatever the price of the food is, then whatever it would fetch and whatever he calls the loss, so that's it. Tanna Kamma says not like that. But the other sheet was that you have to calculate with the land. So then yesterday we had whether a human has the same way of calculating with land or not. So we had a bunch of sheetas, right? So Rabbi Yossi Hagalili on the bottom of the previous Amud had said that you evaluate when you eat something or when an animal eats something from a field, and let's say it's not ripe yet. So do you calculate it right now, or do you wait to see how much will it be worth when it gets ripe? So Rabbi Yosef Glili said that you wait to evaluate it and see how much it would be worth when it's ripe, and that's when he has to pay. Right? So Amar Abaye, that's what we're up to. We're about 10 lines down from the top on Nun Tes Amud Aleph. Okay? Yeah, so Amar Abaye, Rabbi Yosef Glili, that's what we just said. Rabbi Shmuel, Amru Davarach, and Rabbi Shmuel says the same thing. Yeah? Rabbi Yosef Glili Adamar. Rabbi Yosef Glili is like we just said, that you wait for the fruits or vegetables to get ripe, and that's how you calculate how much the losses were. Which, by the way, it comes out from Yosef Glili is a kula and a chumrah. Right? Meaning when you damage somebody's crop, and the crop is not yet ripe. So that crop might go, there could be a hailstorm or something and destroy the guy's crop, in which case, according to Rabbi Yosef Glili, you're potter. It wasn't worth anything in the end. Right?
According to Taisus as well? Taisus is mechalik in different types of crops.
Right, so I'm not sure. But let's take in the pasha, the reading of it. Rabbi Yosef Glili is both a kula and a chumrah, meaning, according to the other shita, you look at it the way it is right here, right now. So let's say it's worth $5, even though when it gets ripe, it might be worth $10. Right now, you did $5 worth of damage. So Rabbi Yosef Glili is saying you look at it like it's later. But if later on, it got worse, then it's actually going to be a loss, according to Yosef Glili.
So you're not paying till later on, also.
How can you pay? How can you pay before that? You have no idea how much to pay. Right? So you have to wait till later. I don't know if there's like a down payment. It doesn't sound like there's any sort of payment. Right? But anyway, so fine. So that's Rabbi Yosef Glili's shita. Okay, so we said that. Rabbi Shmuel, the Tanya Meitav Sadeo Meitav Karma Yishalim. You have to pay Meitav. Right? We're way back. We had the sugya of Meitav there. You have to pay the best. It's one of my what's it called? PTSD sugyas from elementary school. Right? So Meitav Sadeo Meitav Karma Yishalim. You have to pay the best of his yard and the best of his vineyard. Meitav Sadeo Shal Nizik or Meitav Karma Shal Nizik. Right? It's normally the best of the lands of the Nizik and the best of the vineyard of the Nizik. Divrei Rabbi Shmuel. The pasuk is coming to tell you that you collect from the idjis, and meaning the idjis of the damager, not the one that got damaged. And that will be a kavachomer to hektish. Meaning, if you damaged hektish, you have to also give your idjis the best. Okay, so the light now. So we're saying Rabbi Shmuel also holds that you have to pay based on when the crops are going to become ripe. Don't say that Rabbi Shmuel is the way the Rabbi Shmuel that we're referring to is the way Rav Idi bar Avin understood Rabbi Shmuel. The Amar Rav Idi bar Avin kigon she'achla aruga bein arugas. The way he explains it, because the problem is that how can you go pay meitav sadeh or meitav karma of the nizik when you could end up paying a lot more than you damaged? You could end up paying a lot more than you damaged, right? Because it's the best of his, and maybe you didn't ruin the best of his.
Wouldn't you pay still the same amount? I never understood this. What do you mean?
I know. Right? This is part of my PTSD. I just go around in circles.
Not with this Havamina. It's not the same amount. It's V'layadina. We don't know what he damaged.
Well,
so
no, that's coming up now. It's saying till now. This is the way you're saying the way Rav Idi bar Avin understands.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So the way Rav Idi bar Avin understands it is going she'achla aruga bein arugas. It ate a patch from amongst the patches of the fruits and vegetables. We have no idea whether this animal ate the bad vegetables, chusha, or he ate the fatty ones. The Amar kum shlim shmeina. Because he said, go. So the Rav Idi bar Avin says that Rabbi Shmuel says that you got to pay the fatty, the meitav, with the best. Right? But the meitav dikahashta, with the best that it is right now. Because you can't say that pshat, because my timer, why can't you say that pshat? Right? We know the rule, right, that if you want to take money out from your friend, so you have to prove. The burden of proof is on the person that wants to get paid. Right? You have to prove that he paid. So that he ruined the best. So how could Rav Idi bar Avin say that? The Ella, b'meitav de l'kamei. Right? So it's talking about, the best of what's going to be later on. Umayniu, kiheich the salad. It's talking about when it's ready to be removed. Meaning, calculate with the best of the guy's vegetables or fruits when it's ready to be removed, which means when it's ripe. So you see, Rabbi Shmuel says the same thing. Agrada had a Hametz Mechverel Varaya Shaila yesterday or Friday. Once it came up, I just throw it out there for the islands. Somebody came to pay for the play group. He says he went to the bank, he took out cash, and he claims he gave it to the play group Mora, whatever. And the play group Mora has no record of it. She counted up all the money, and she's missing whatever $300 a month, whatever the number was, I don't remember. Right? So who's liable?
He's liable, no?
Is he?
Why not?
He says he paid. She has to prove. Who's the Moitzi Mechaver El Varaya?
Who's asking for the money?
So I don't know, because it depends on what.
No, she asked for the money 3 weeks ago, but he pays her at the end of the month. She didn't ask for the money today. He always owes her the money. His kid went to the playgroup. He owes her the money.
Right, but he says he paid. So whose burden of proof is that's what I'm just not sure. I don't know. Who's the burden of proof on?
On him.
Initially,
Yaakov, that comes into the shaila of, do you need to bring Aiden that you paid a chayiv?
Right. Well,
you have to have a receipt.
No, do you need Aiden on a chayiv? That you were parati, isn't that a machlekes?
Yeah.
If you need Aiden to pay a chayiv?
Well, the question is this a chayiv? What is this?
How's it not a chayiv? Well, what does that mean? What is it then if it's not a chayiv?
Well, that gets into stam when you is it a chayiv when you have to pay a salary? Is that a chayiv? Is there
It's not a salary. You're not paying a salary. You're something. If it's a service,
right? So when you finish getting the service, you pay.
Right.
So then it becomes a chayiv. No.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know. Initially, I thought not like Rabban. I thought like Iran, that she wants money from him, right? So then she has to prove that he owes her.
She did the service.
Now yes.
She proved
now
it.
Yes, but it seems like 3 weeks ago, perhaps he never gave it to her.
Right. So meaning she could say to him, your kid came to my play group, Maskim, good.
Right.
You need to pay me money, right?
Exactly.
And
Yeah,
and
that's
I didn't. He says, I don't have a proof that I paid. Okay, so
But it's a
they-
Bari
Exactly.
Veshema. It's a Bari Veshema.
okay.
He's a Bari, she's a Shema.
He's not a Bari. He's lying.
Why is he not a Bari? You said he paid
He's
it.
a guy. He says, I can't say for sure. Maybe it got lost. I think.
Right.
I don't remember already the case. It was
Yaakov, does he have a receipt they took money out of the bank that exact amount for her?
Yes, that he thought, but so what? I could have come
What
back from the bank. I passed Season Express. I could be hungry and go spend $300, no problem.
What happens?
I
What
don't even
happens?
remember. What?
What happens when a husband owes a ksuva and he says he pays the wife, and the wife says, "You never paid me"?
Well, you need a shaver. Or you need to tear up the get.
Right. So why wouldn't this be the same thing?
I'm
What
not
they
sure.
rip up the
Avi,
the
you're saying 'cause
tuition
you give a
contract?
receipt.
Oh, it's a receipt. I mean, he should provide some sort of proof that he gave the
Does
money.
she normally
That's the
give
same
receipts?
thing that happens when you go to a store or you owe somebody money. You get a receipt.
You don't necessarily get receipts for some Heimish non-insured day group.
Halachically, halachically, do you need to get a receipt for this? For a loan, yes.
Oh, the whole thing's a milval peh. If it becomes a chayv, it's a milval peh. So Nekra, then he would be mechoyev shvuas hasis. He can't make a shvua, so he would be mechoyev to pay again. Even though bad some, I agree that she would have to prove it.
Yaakov, bottom line, what did you pass?
You prove a negative.
I paskin. Usually, I tell people I'm not getting involved with this. That's not. Initially, I thought that the burden of proof was on her, right? But then I wasn't sure. So okay, then all right. That's anyways. But here it's pashut the mitzvah, right? He wants what we don't have. We have a shiloh whether the animal ate the good parts of the vegetables or the bad parts of the vegetables, right? So
We don't know what was in the garden there.
no, but we don't know which part the animal ate, and
Well, we know what he ate. We know what's missing.
no, but there's other stuff missing too. Meaning, I'm assuming the case was that the guy had his own animals, and his own animals ate some, and this guy's animal ate. They don't know which one's which. We have a lawyer on tonight talking. It's very good. So now, why don't you check in? You can give your opinion. Anyways, yeah. We're always missing a lawyer here. We got different types of doctors and different types of this and that. But yeah, okay, he doesn't want to. All right. Yeah. So no, but here it's pashut. The owner of the vegetables is the moitzi mechaver olavaraya, right? He wants to get paid for the best vegetables, so he has to prove that the best vegetables are eaten. It's not. Main point is, it's not always clear cut who the moitzi mechaver is, right? Anyways, okay, bye. Omamar.
that's
What?
that's just because he's saying he wants the best. Maybe he just wants to get paid. The guy his animal damaged something.
You're right. If Hitaka is willing to take the minimum, then he'd be mechuyev to pay, right? I think so.
So then how does it switch just because he want
He's going for the gold. He's going. He's not. He's all or nothing.
he sort of signed for the blueberries in season, so he said,
Listen,
he had no havamina before that.
right. It could be that he's going to. He'll end up with nothing. It's possible, right? It's possible, especially according to
what I'm saying, I don't know if it means anything. What I'm saying that the nizik owes him. The mazik, the fellow who owns the shop, owes him money.
He definitely owes him money.
So he
okay, go ahead. Yeah.
he definitely owes him money. The question is, he owe him $9 a pound or $6 a pound? That's the whole question. He owes him. Zecha owes him money.
It's not so. No, Gersh is shaking his head. No, not necessarily. Because according to this shita, you're waiting for it to get right. You're going to calculate it when it gets right.
So he owes him when it's not right. Zecha owes him.
Right, but what happens if a storm comes through and destroys the crop? before it gets ripe, then he really owes him nothing. According
Why?
to
Why?
because you always look at it the way
Because the
way
crop
it
was worth
ahead.
nothing.
You look at it according to this shita. It's a kua and a chumrah. That's what I'm saying. Initially, it seems like it's a chumrah. This Rabbi Yosef Glili, but it could end up in the odd case, Rabbi Aaron, it could end up being maybe okay. Taisus, that's what I keep saying. But in an odd case, it could end up being that you actually get messed over.
That's because he's not looking at it as a loss right now. It's a potential loss. He lost the farmer lost what the crops could become. So right now there's no loss. The loss is in 3 weeks from now when it's finally
It's a
grown.
loss now.
There's no loss of anything. You didn't need any
I
crops.
mean, there's no loss of anything. They
If you're
started
looking at
growing
these-
already. They started growing already, so there's a loss.
They're unsellable right now.
Now,
They have no value.
He could have eaten them himself. He could have fed it to his cows.
No, they're inedible right now. That's the point. They're
like
not food.
it's almost like an option, right? It's like an option. You don't know. You hope that it's gonna. Later
Why
on.
is this not a run into problem with Davar Shalom though?
Well, it is Bala Ilam. It's just not complete.
No, I'm
Yeah.
saying the value is not Bala that we want to be Mechayev before. Tasting of tzvi on that much money.
Yeah, but even according to Rabbi Yehuda, if the actual thing is Bala Ilam, then there
Yeah,
is damage.
so it's worth $10 now. It's not worth $50.
Okay, I say we do this afterwards. Let's go weiter.
Okay, it's New Year's Eve. Aaron Kaplan's got to go.
I got a recording. What do they call it? The Ryan something show, Rabbi? What's he called?
Aaron, Mittelnacht is the 6th, not the 1st.
Oh, sorry.
Aaron, are those revelers in your background over there? Are those some New Year revelers? You know, are you in Times Square right now?
Okay, I keep up. Turn on your camera, then you can talk.
Okay, all right, here we go. Amama, yeah. So Amama, yeah. Reb Shimon, but I just want to say, if you do have to drive somewhere, the traffic seems to be pretty light. Just letting you know if anybody does want to go anywhere. Yeah. So Amama.
Akiva, I want to tell you something. If you'll go to Times Square tonight, I'll chip in for the Uber together with Aaron Kaplan, okay?
How about the diapers? You need diapers.
Yeah, I was gonna say I need an adult diaper before I can go
Byron,
there.
I would cover the
can't-
whole
can't
thing.
stand
I'll
it.
I'll supply those.
Oh, parents.
Off-brand.
Oh, there you go. Parents, you charge insurance too?
I was going to say, Ben Siakam is going to bill back for it. You can guarantee it.
As long as you're in by 12. As long as you're in by 12.
Once Nelson
out
gets his
after
hands
12.
on it. Parents, once Nelson gets his hands on it, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, let's go. Omar Mar. Yeah, so Mar said what we said before. Reb Shimon knew a shtickle new sugi. A very interesting sugi. Let me tell you. Again, this is not tonight's daf is another non-feminist daf. Okay, yeah. So, you'll see. Omar Mar. Reb Shimon ben Yehuda. I'm Reb Shimon. What are we talking about? That meaning, when did we say, how we start the whole sugya, that you don't, when the animal goes and damages fruit, you don't just calculate how much would these fruits sell right now. You calculated how much was this big field worth, and then how much is it worth less now. But that's only when it ate lulavig fanim and yichure te'ena, meaning when the shoots. It didn't eat the actual fruits. It ate the things that grow the fruit, that the fruits grow out of. So Gemara asks, Chosmada, but let's say he actually ate the grapes that were first starting to grow. So then we're going to calculate it as if it's grapes that are ready to be gathered. If that's the case, right? Meaning the Gemara is saying that it's only when he eats the shoots of the grapes and the shoots of the figs. Right? But if it would be actual fruits, then we'd have to calculate it as if it was ripe. Aim a seifa, but then look at the seifa. If he ate the not ripe figs or not ripe grapes, that's when we look at it as if you evaluate it as if it was ready to be picked. But if it's only in the initial stage of growing, you just calculate in the standard way, which is how much was it worth before, right? And how much is it going to be worth later? Meaning it's a stira basically. We have opposing diyokim, right? Of what smader would be. So Amar Ravina, Korach Batani, wrap the whole thing together and learn it this way. When is it that you're chayiv to pay for the entire field? That's when you eat it in shoots. But if you eat it, the grapes, when the asmader again is when they grow initially. Hagin is when they're half grown, and Beiser is also when they're half grown. Then Ryan Oisan Kilo Anavim obviously bots. And then we look at it as if they're grapes that are meant to be harvested, and that's how you calculate it. Okay, if that's the case, and you're saying this in the opinion of Rabbi Shimon bar Yehuda, so then he's saying the same thing as Rabbi Yeshua, right? Because Rabbi Yeshua had said that by smother, you calculate it, even though the animal damaged it right when it started growing, but we look at it as if it's ripe. So you're saying the same thing with Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda. So Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda and Rabbi Yeshua are saying the same thing. So we say no, there's a difference between them. Kachash gufna, the weakening of the geffen, of the grapevines, right, is the difference between the two opinions. But we don't know who holds what. Meaning, it's very interesting how you have to make the calculations. You know, if somebody went and told me this, I'd be like, wow, you are the cheapest, most calculating guy in the whole world. Right? It's a very interesting thing here. It took me a while to chop this. Maybe that's how dumb I am. I don't know. But meaning, we're saying that you have these grapes that just started growing. So then what you have to do is you have to calculate how much they're really worth when they're ripe, which is a lot more than they're worth now. But then the other side's going to come tell you for 1 second. Every time grapes grow on vines, the vines are now weaker and they're worth less. So you say, okay, you're very nice that you want to take $1,000, right? But now the grapevine is going to be worth $100 less. So instead of getting your 1,000, you're only going to take 900. Meaning, do we calculate I don't know what the word is for this. The
depreciation.
Oh, very good. Thank you. There you go. Very good. The depreciation of the other assets. There, we mamish sound. Yeah. Right. So you're right. The depreciation of the other thing. Do you calculate it or not? So one holds you do calculate the depreciation, and the other shita holds that you don't. But the Gemara says
the vines is depreciation of the fixed assets.
There you go. Right.
His portfolio.
Correct. Yes, and it's not any sort of, we made you money. It's not any sort of, what do you call it? A future, whatever. That's another phrase. Whatever. But anyway, so that's the machlokes. Whether we calculate the depreciation. So Abaya Amar Masaimi Umasaimi. Abaya says no. We know exactly who holds what. Mantana Dechayish L'Kachash Duvna. Who's the one that is concerned for depreciation? In which case, the damage is going to get less money. Reb Shimon ben Yehudi, the Tanya, Reb Shimon ben Yehudi, Reb Shimon ben Asya. I mean, this is one, especially the fee with the matzav in Eretz Yisrael. It brings up some raw nerves. This Gemara, unfortunately, but it's a wild shita. If somebody rapes a woman, he does not have to pay for the tsar. Now, it doesn't mean the tsar of the rape. That avad you have to pay for, right? That's Tosfos on the bottom Tosfos. That's not what we're talking about. The tsar of the initial intercourse, the regular basulim that's hurting the woman, right? That tsar you don't have to pay. Why? Whoever she's going to end up marrying, she's going to end up having that tsar anyway. So, what did you really cost her? You're saving her the tsar later. Meaning, let's say it is an 18-year-old and she plans on getting married at 20. So good. So he was ma'anis her at 18. Good. So now at 20, she won't have the pain. Obviously, we're talking about strictly pain from basulim. That's it. We're not talking about psychological pain and the tsar of the assault.
Doesn't someone who's not a basula get less?
Oh,
when
so that's
married?
So that's Pashtus is yeah. Pashtus is yeah. For a woman,
So she is losing out.
What's she losing out?
She's getting less when she gets married. She's not a basula.
Oh, you're talking about money-wise? I thought you were talking about pain.
No, I'm talking about money wise.
And a Hanami, yeah, that damage he has to pay.
Okay.
Really has
In
to
the
marry
ksuba,
Ksuba, yeah.
What the, can it
that's
come
in
back?
the Chamishim Shkalim of the Torah. That's what the Chamishim Shkalim is for.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, that's where we learn that the Messiah of ksuba is from Einos.
correct, correct.
Can it come back?
The Psulim?
Only if she's
Yeah.
less than 3 years old.
So 3 years old.
And she can't have pain again if it's a few years later?
She can, but l'chayra it should be less pain. L'chayra it should be less pain, right? That's again, it's a chiddush. This sheet, it's a chiddush. Amrulai, so they told him back. Ain't a diamond nivela beratzon. You can't say that when she's going to be married. Is nivela beratzon, so it's going to be less painful, right? But Einis, you can't compare the pain, right? So what do you see? What you see from this is Reb Shimon ben Menasya, Reb Shimon ben Yehuda, is saying that you have to calculate in the long term what was the depreciation. Meaning, yes, you want to give her the pain, but she's going to be having this pain anyway. So really, that doesn't count, right? That's one. Amar Abaya, Hane Tanoim, Reb Shimon Yehuda, Amru Davar Echad. These Tanoim and Reb Shimon Yehuda are saying the same thing. Reb Shimon Yehuda Hada Amara. That's what we just said. And Hani Tanoim Mai, what are these Tanoim? The Tani of Yossi Aimer, Nechi Chaya. You have to subtract how much, this is really calculated. You have to, meaning if this is come out the case where two men are fighting and one hits a pregnant woman and causes her to miscarry, right? So the guy says, okay, you have to pay, like we said, another interesting din that the money goes to the father, not to the mother. The money of the fetus goes to the father. So the father says, okay, pay me for the fetus. He says, what do you mean? I just saved you paying the doctor bills for a birth. Right? I know it almost sounds like it's a straight out of the movies, but that's what he's saying, right? And you don't have any doctor bills. So Mamela, you have to subtract that off the top, and that's what he holds, right? Nechi chaya, subtract the amount. Well, it doesn't mean a doctor, it means a midwife. How about the food that a pregnant woman has to eat? Right? The damager could say, look how much money I saved you in extra food. Now you don't have a pregnant wife. She doesn't have to eat for two people. I saved you money that way. Right?
Especially you don't have to buy the whole of Israel ice cream for millions of dollars.
It depends if you're having a tzaddik for a baby, Rabban. I don't know if they held it. They're having a tzaddik and a gadol and whatever. Yeah. So anyway, so the one that says you're allowed to subtract the price for the midwife, kol shekain nechi mazonos. So it's a kol shekain, you could subtract the mazonos. You can't subtract the midwife. The amalei, it's a didi because the guy could say, now look at this confidence the man had in his wife. My wife is so smart, she doesn't need a midwife. He could tell her, you think you're going to try and get me and I pay me less because I'm saving on the midwife. My wife is so good. She doesn't even need a midwife, right?
A home birth of Yaakov. What do you mean? It's very popular these days.
Baby, and she doesn't need
Great
a
timing for this Gemara. Kichaya Seina.
Oh, that's
Isn't that
true.
this week? Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. Is it this way? Yeah. Yeah. I do have to toot my own home for a second, but my first baby. So my wife, of course, wanted to go Lamaze classes. I said, I ain't doing no Lamaze. I went to the library, I took out a Lamaze book, and I taught her the Lamaze. So when she was in labor, she was doing the whole breathing, and the nurse says to her, where'd you take Lamaze classes? It was, you're really doing a good job. And I was like, hey. There you go. So I accomplished something in my life, and I saved a few $100s that way. Right? But anyway, but it's saying here that the wife didn't need it. It doesn't say anything about the husband. So anyway, so that could be the title. Fine.
Yeah, but what's a library?
Yeah, those are yeah. That's that thing they keep on lock and key upstairs in Shayashuv that they don't let anybody in. Okay, Rav Papa Rav Huna Breda Rav Yeshua, Avar Uvda Kavasei, the Rav Nachman, Beshishin. They had a Maisa that they passed like Rav Nachman, right? And they calculated with Shisha, meaning Rav Nachman, going back to yesterday, the case was Rav Nachman, somebody chopped down there were 3 palm trees. He chopped down one of them. He went to the Reish Galusa. Reish Galusa passed him. There's 3 palm trees. They're worth 100 altogether. So this guy knocked down one. He pays 33.3. Rav Chisda said that only applies to animals. Doesn't necessarily apply to humans, right? So they passed it like Rav Nachman that you have to go with shisha, meaning you have to look at the 3 palm trees that they're part of 60 times that amount of field, etc., etc. Right?
Is that like Chizkiah? Was the Nachman himself passing like Chizkiah? Compared to making it like a Besa or a Terkov, meaning within Rav Nachman Shita.
Specific shisha doesn't say which shisha.
I'm thinking, but Shishim is mashma just 60 of anything, like Chizkiah.
Maybe, but they all really were saying shisha.
No, well, one was Chizkiah was saying a much smaller amount. He was saying a much more expensive amount compared to Besa.
Right. I hear. I don't know. I'm not sure. Okay, Rahuda Breder Rishuva, Shamu Dikla Agav Katina Da'ara. They evaluated the dekel, the date tree, with a small amount of land. The halacha is like Rav Papa, Ravuna Breder Rishuva Bedikla Da'armai. By an Armenian palm trees, we paskin like Rav Papa, that you calculated with a small amount of field. The Reish Galusa, Bediklat Parsa, and Allah is like the Reish Galusa, and a Persian tree, which is very chashuv, and you have to evaluate it by itself. Right? Again, you got to crunch the numbers. You got to crunch the numbers with exactly which way your numbers are gonna make you better or worse, or more expensive, less expensive. Fine.
This is another play on words.
What?
I complained before that the Reish Galusa paskin Dina de Parsa, and now Hilchas said the Reish Galusa B'dikla de Parsa.
I hear.
What did he paskin wrong? I mean, what was the complaint then?
Well, he wasn't right. Well, the complaint was that he wasn't even Jewish, right? I'm saying, well, he's Jewish, but he wasn't.
He was Jewish.
Law, just not with the Jewish law.
And when they went from him, they went to his brother-in-law, Rav Nachman.
Right. Good point. Yeah.
It's all a business here.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so now here we bridge the Mishnayos that we just learned about Gaiva to this Gemara. Eliezer Zeira, on Tom Beis now. Havasayim Masani Uchmi. He was wearing black shoes, right? Which is the minig of Avelim. Right? The Koi Beshugat in Arda, and he was standing in the street in Arda, Ashkahu the Reish Galusa, and the Reish Galusa they found him. Bamrle Maishnahani Basani. What are you doing with these shoes? Amrlahu the Kamma Vilna Yerushalayim. He says, I'm having Avelis Yerushalayim, so I'm wearing these black shoes. Amrulay, he says, oh, Tumul, whether it means the black shoes, black shoelaces, because didn't everybody wear black shoes back then? Okay, but when he was doing some sort of simin that he was in Avelis. Right? Amrulay, at chashib, I pronounce it one, at, or because it's at, not atah. At chashivta lisbule Yerushalayim. Are you so chashuv that you're allowed to have Avelis in Yerushalayim? Right? Yeah.
There's a good ma'aser from the Ragged Shop about this.
I think you told it to me once. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So the Russian government, they wanted to make that all the Rabbanim have to speak in Russian. None of them knew Russian. They spoke Yiddish. They didn't know Russian. The Rabbanim lived in Russian. So they had an asifa to decide whether the Rabbanim should learn Russian and speak in Russian. So they all the Chashav Rabbanim were there. And one, shall we call him a modern Rav, young Rav, stood up and said, he said, I don't see the issue. The Rambam, we know, was a Talmud Chacham, and he spoke Arabic. So what is the problem? So the Ragged Shav turned to me and says, Van Vaden Veis D is the Rambam's given a Talmud Chacham. He said, how do you know the Rambam was a Talmud
Chacham? It's the Rambam's yard site tonight.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Very good. You said Tachman today or tomorrow? You saying Tachman?
I have a feeling the Rambam would say yes.
Right, I would say Chabad.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
What?
I said, now
Tonight,
not.
what? Oh,
Yeah. Anyways, they told him, "Are you chashiv to have availus in Yerushalayim?" Right? Sober, you are Rava. So because they thought that it was gaiva, right? Meaning, like just like we learned in brachas just now, right? To go not read Kriya Shema, or to read Kriya, whichever way you're coming at it, might be a gaiva, right? So he said they thought it was gaiva. So Taka just reminded me. David Simon told me this myself after my father was lifted. One time when the Eretz Yisrael was in war, so he was going to go to Eretz Yisrael, and he asked if he should go. Is it a sakana? Da 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 da. So my father told him, "You think you're chashuv enough to die al kiddush Hashem? You could go. Don't worry about it." so it's whatever. Anyway, so Sober, you were over. They thought it was Gaiva. So you have Chavshu, and they hit him. Meaning they put him in jail. Amr Lahu, he said to him, Gava Rabano, I'm a big man. No believe no, you know. How do we know? Amr Lahu,
Because he was a Balgaiva, they imprisoned him?
because it was the Reish Galusa, so they were really in charge of the government also. Yeah, I'm not sure why, because the guy's a Balgaiva, you put him into jail. We would have a big problem.
It's ironic that his next words are Gavra Rabba. No.
That's true. But he was telling him that I'm going to walk the walk and talk the talk. He's going to back it up, right? So
yeah, but the Beirish Galuso over there, I don't know if it was that exact one, but they were notorious clowns. There's Gemaras all over Shas about how terrible they were. About how they tried to trap Rav Chizda and serve him poison, all sorts of stuff.
Right. So okay, but here they were acting in. So you're saying here they were not acting properly?
I don't know the rest of the story, but yeah.
It's not
Possibly.
Gaiva.
I'm just saying they were not
Trial?
the Beirish Galuso were not exactly the biggest, most arlicha people in the world.
Yeah.
But separately, it's not Gaiva to say Gavaraba Anna, because if you know you're Gavaraba, you're just saying what the facts are. You can still be humble.
Very good, Taka. As long as you don't take the credit, right? Don't take the credit. But if you're a Gavaraba, you're a Gavaraba. That's the way it
wasn't that how Ramesh always acted? Ramesh was famous for that. He would say, "No, this is my Torah. This is how I arrived at that. I'm not backing down just because somebody else disagrees with me."
Right. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Oh, so anyway, so we know Yadina. So he says, how are we supposed to know? Amalahu, he said to them, so either you ask me a question, or I'll ask you a question. Amrulay, boyat, you ask us. Amalahu, he said to them, Haiman the cuts kufra. This person who cut down somebody's dates that just started growing, right? Which is our sugya. My mishalim, how much should he pay? Amrulay, so the Reish Galusa people told him, mishalim me kufra. You got to pay the price of a date that just started growing. So he said back to them, "V'hava timri," but it's going to be why should you only pay what it's the price that it gets when it's right now, when it's bound to grow into something much bigger. So Malay, so they said to him, okay, Mashal de Timri. So pay the price of a tamar, of a full-fledged date. Amrlu, Timri Shakamune. But he didn't take a regular tamar, he took a small, right? He's toying with him. So Amrulay, so they said to him, Aimalanat, so you tell us. Amrlahu, Bashishim. You gotta calculate it by multiplying the field times 60. How much would the field be worth? Right? Like the whole Mishnah. Amrulay, so they told him back. Man Amrakava, so who says like you? Amrlahu, Hashmuel Chayav, Bezdina Kayim. Shmuel's alive and his Bezdin is around. Go to him. So Shadru, Kamei, the Shmuel, they sent the Shiloh to Shmuel. Amrlahu, Shaper Amrlahu Bashishim, he was correct for saying that you evaluate how much the fruit that he ate, multiply it times 60 and then divide it by how much was eaten, and then that's how you calculate it. And because he was correct, so they saw that he was a big man, so they let him go. So meaning he was chashuv enough to have avelus on Yerushalayim. Okay. Reb Shimon's the easy shita, right? He says, achla peiros gevurim, if you ate full ripe peiros, then you pay the exact whatever it's worth, right? Your blueberries from seasons, whatever it is, right? Whatever the price that it fetches, that's what you pay. My time, how come he says that? Hada Amar Rachmanu Bir B'Stei because this that the pasuk says that you go and you consumed it or ate it up in somebody else's field, which the other Shita had learned. That the other Shita learns that we learn out from it that you evaluate it based on an entire field because it says Bir B'Stei Acher, you ate somebody's fruit in his field. That's only something that actually needs the field, meaning things that are not yet right. Since these things don't need a field because they're ripe, you could just pick them and eat them. So they have to be, you pay the way they are right now. So basically, Reb Shimon is differentiating between whether the fruits were ripe or not. Once they're fully ripe, he says now they're no longer relying on the ground for nutrients because it's already fully grown. Therefore, just pay the price of the fruits. Fine. Done Rav Kirameir or Pasuk Hilchos Reb Shimon. So Rav made a din like a sheet of Rameir, having nothing to do with our Gemara, and he also passed in halacha like Reb Shimon from our Mishnah. Don Rav Kirameir, the Tanya Kasav, we had this in Ksubas Kasav Larisha. So we let's just do a little background. So a woman gets a Ksuba. Any lands that the husband has at the time of the marriage go to the wife first before they get sold. Meaning, if he sells them and then he has no money for the ksuba, she is allowed to collect her ksuba from those lands. They're meshubah to her. So, but here he had two lands, and so now we pick it up. The Tanya Kosav Larishon v'loy chas maloi. She wrote, and if he wrote in the shtar that he's selling it, and she didn't sign on it that she agrees to it. L'sheni v'chas maloi, but he sold his second field and she signed off on it that she's okay with it. So then you would think, so okay, the first field will go to her if he doesn't pay her ksuba. If he doesn't have the money to pay the ksuba, the second field not, because she signed off on it. So we say no, of the ksubasa, the Rameir holds she totally lost her ksuba. Why? Because when the first field was given, so you could say, the guy could say, oh, I'm not gonna give up my field. When I bought the field from this husband, there was another field left over that's going to pay her ksuba, right? So that this field is not the one. The field that I'm buying is not the one that's going to be indebted to her. The field that I'm buying is mine. The other field is indebted to her. Then she goes and takes the second field and signs it off. So now she lost both. That's what Rameir holds. Basically, she's saying I was forced. I didn't want to sign off on the second field. I was just doing it as a nachas ruach to my husband. What is that? What do you have to? What do you have on me? Meaning, she's saying I never meant to sign it off. But if I wouldn't have signed it off, then my husband really will never give me anything. So I had to sign it off. So Mamela, it doesn't mean that I was giving up the second field. That's a machlokes Ramei and Rabbi Yehuda. So Rav paskin like Ramei. Okay, so that's one thing. And well, it's interesting. He didn't. What was the lashon again? The Gemara? He didn't paskin. Dan Rav Kirameir, and he paskin like Rav Shimon, because one was in a din, or like in a bezdin, and one was a psak. Although Rashi says pasuk hilchasa, when it means pasuk hilchasa, Rashi in the first of the thin lines there, Kleimer limid letalmidim shehalacha k'Rav Shimon halacha psuka l'doiros. Right, he taught his talmidim that the halacha is like Reb Shimon, and that should be the halacha psuka l'doiros, meaning the dan was a story. When the Rashi before this, a dan Rav Maisa, but that's the way he passed it in that particular case. But when he's saying hilchasa, he means the paskin that for doiros. So he will pasuk hilchasa Reb Shimon. The other time Reb Shimon Aimer achla peiros gemurin. When you eat fully ripe peiros, mishalemes peiros gemurin, you pay fully ripe peiros. Im saw, if it's a saw, im sasayim, and if it's two saw, then it's two saw. Whatever it is that he ate, that's what he pays. Okay, next Mishnah. That's the harder part of the daf. This next part is pretty easy. So Magdish b'soik sada chaverish shaloi b'rishos. The guy decides to pile up. Magdish means Gadish. He piles up fruits, vegetables, grain, in the field of his friend without permission. And of course, the owner of the sada, who this guy's crashing, his animal goes and eats it. So potter, the owner is potter. And if the balagodish gets damaged by it, right? So then, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. If the owner's animal got damaged by this pile of food that crashed in his house, in his yard, balagodish chayiv. So the owner of the pile is chayiv because he had no business putting his stuff in there. But if he piled it up with permission, then balasada chayiv, the balasada is chayiv. Oh, why? Because if they gave him permission, it's as if he's accepting on himself responsibility, which we had a previous Gemara about, which the Gemara asks right away. Leimatnan, the loy Rebbe. So this mission is mashma not like Rebbe. The Rebbe, ha'amar achi kabbalah balabayas lishma. Rebbe holds that when you give somebody permission to store things in your house, right, you are not makabel responsibility unless you specifically say, keep your stuff in my house and I'll also watch it. If you don't say that, according to Rebbe, you're not liable. And this Mishnah clearly says that if he had permission to bring, if he gave permission to put for the fellow to put his grain in his yard, then that's considered automatic responsibility. So it sounds like not like Rebbe. So Papa, but not their Beidari Askina. We're talking about where it was the watchman of the Beidari, the place where they store all the grain. That the Kiman Damarle, I'll Begoda, since he's the watchman, and he said, bring it in and pile it up, I'll V'intalahu, that's as if he said to him, bring it in, and I'm going to watch it for you. Right? So meaning in that specific case, the reason why the Mishnah says it's considered automatic watching is, meaning even Rebbe would agree to that. Because that's the normal thing for the watchman to do. He tells you to bring your grain in, and he's going to watch it for you. Okay, it's late enough, so we'll stop over here. Okay.
Maybe tomorrow night we could learn earlier.
I was thinking that, Taka.